Poetry really does capture the inexpressible, and the emotions that you deal with when you're dealing with Alzheimer's that is one of the things that is hard to just grasp. And so poetry is such a wonderful way to really share that.
Poetry is its own language in a sense. There are no periods, commas. It's its own space, and yet we can still understand so profoundly. And like Alzheimer's has its own language, and we can find a way to connect, just like with poems.
Welcome to the Alz Authors Podcast. We're so glad you found us. We're the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience to light the way for others. I'm Mary Ann Shuko, a registered nurse, author, and dementia daughter.
And I'm Christy Byrne-Yates, a licensed educational psychologist, dementia daughter, Alz author, and coach focused on the sandwich generation. Please join us for bi-weekly episodes with our authors as we talk about their dementia journeys, sharing intimate details and painfully obtained knowledge to help others currently on that path.
We hope these stories offer you comfort and support as we strive to break the silence and stigma surrounding a dementia diagnosis.
May one of our authors speak to your experience.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Hi, it's Mary Ann. In celebration of National Poetry Month, we hosted a gathering of poets on April 18th, 2023, to share work inspired by their dementia experiences. We understand that storytelling of any kind, but especially through poetry, lightens burdens. For many caregivers, poetry can be a means of expression, of sharing their experience, opening hearts to joy or drowning sorrows. Finding the right words to tell our stories can ease our journey. Reading the words of others can inspire us, give us strength, and let us know we are not alone. The response to our initial invitation to a poetry reading was tremendous. And better than we expected. More than 60 authors RSVP'd, and on the day of the reading, more than 30 showed up to read and share their beautiful words and stories with honesty and grace. We shared laughter and tears too. Now, 30 poets is a lot of poets and a lot of poems. We accommodated everyone by stretching the program out to 2 hours. Many poets got to read twice. What resulted is almost 2 hours of recorded poetry on the dementia journey, now available on our podcast in 2 episodes and on our YouTube channel. Welcome to episode 1. Get out the tissues and start listening. All right, everybody, here we go. Hello, and welcome to this presentation of Alz Authors Live, Poetry for the Dementia Journey. In case you haven't met me before, my name's Mary Ann Shuko, and I'm a co-founder and manager of Alz Authors. And we are the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience to light the way for others. Thank you for sharing some of your precious time with us today. I'm going to ask Ann Campanella to start us off. What we'll do is you'll introduce yourself, maybe give a one-line bio regarding your caregiving journey, and then you can read your poem and then stay prepared to read again if we have time.
Sounds great. I will just jump right in here. I'm Ann Campanella. I've been with All's Authors for 6 years, I believe. My mom had dementia, Alzheimer's, for 14 years. And the poem I'm going to read is called Child Mother. And I wrote it when she was in a care home. Child Mother. She used to grip the rudder, auburn hair slicked, cheeks round and pink as two rubber balls. Duck, she'd yell when the sail swooped across us, canvas wagging for a moment like the skin on her jaw. Now she stares at the photo of the bay, her eyes pools of hazel. She grips my hand, whispers, "I think I'll walk down to the lake." Her voice soft as an eddy of wind against my neck. We push through the glass doors into a gray sea of cement. Cars and vans bob like anchored boats. Her eyes calm as mist, she points. "What do you see?" I ask, squinting at a lamppost, a small tree in the distance. She waves. "Why, it's Dad, of course, but he doesn't see me." Wetness slides down the ripple of her cheek. "Will you take me to him?" I place my arm across the mast of her shoulders, walk with her into the mirage. Thanks.
That was lovely.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think Marcia Barber. Where's Marcia?
I'm right here.
Okay. Hi, Marcia. I know that you had said that you only had a few minutes, so we wanted to have you read next.
Thank you. So I'm reading from my fourth poetry book, Kaddish for My Mother, and inspired by the journey, the dementia journey. So this poem is called Giving Up Her Name. The Sunday before my mother died, she became lucid, the way a stone under clear water becomes lucid, the beauty of its cracks and veins revealed. The confusion receded like harbor fog at sunrise. It was a good day, she said. The pain ebbed like a wave. And that's when my mother told me she never liked her name. Josephine, too much to carry. We told each other, I love you, although love wasn't enough to contain all the prior years of distance and hurt. But now I'd begun to see her as my child and loved her with the deep, uncomplicated love you feel for those you tend to. As I cupped my palms gently around her fragile life. As we left that day, I turned to my husband and said, that's the best visit we've had in months. The next day, my mother sank into heavy sleep, but it wasn't until 3 days later that she exhaled a gentle breath and finally was able to relinquish the weight of her name. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Very lovely. Caroline Johnson.
So I'm going to read, just one poem from my book. It's called The Caregiver, and I was a caregiver for both my parents. My mom had Alzheimer's, so I'm going to read a poem that references that, and my dad had a rare form of Parkinson's called multiple systems atrophy, which he did have Lewy body dementia, so they both really did suffer from this illness. So this is called Glasses. Sitting in his wheelchair, Father struggles to brush his teeth, sips from an antique green glass hand-blown by Grandpa, spits into a pink plastic hospital tray. Mother also rinses her mouth with one of Grandpa's vintage juice glasses. After polishing her denture, she wanders off to bed, her head full of sweet, demented delusions. Earlier, we hunted for her lost hearing aid, searched among socks, drains, under dressers, beds, until we found it buried deep in the bottom of one of her father's speckled glasses. I tuck them into bed, tell them about a puffin I saw in Alaska. Mother wonders when she will fly away. Is that where we're going? She asks, to Alaska. I can't argue with her logic, merely dim the lights. Who am I to tell her she doesn't have wings? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Steve Giblin, you ready? You need to unmute. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Let me just give a little bit of background. My wife was diagnosed with a rare form of dementia called posterior cortical atrophy. It is an early onset form of dementia. My wife was diagnosed at age 58. She's now 65. PCA is sometimes referred to as the visual variant of Alzheimer's because it impacts initially that part of the brain which processes what our eyes see. So my wife's eyes are healthy. It's the brain that's not working. So she has visual related challenges. I'm not a professional poet or author. I don't have a book to hold up, but I've written a series of haiku poems that I published on a Facebook group that I'm an administrator for PCA spouses. Those of you who are not familiar with haiku, it's 3 lines, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. So I have 2, if you will allow me, 2 very short poems to read to you.
Okay.
They don't have titles. Creeping from nowhere, subtle signs along the way, changing everything. And the second one, intimacy robbed, leaving a lonely vacuum, couple uncoupled. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. That's beautiful. Keep writing. Your voice is important.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Margaret Stowawi. Did I say that right, Margaret?
Yes, I'm unmuted now. Yes, you did pronounce my name correctly.
I want to just introduce you because you brought so many of the wonderful poets to this program through your book, Storms of the Inland Sea, which is becoming one of our All's Authors books. In a few months, I think you're in the queue.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
I'm so glad to see my, everybody here and my contributors as well, but to make new friends and hear voices of these wonderful poets. So thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. You can read.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well,
If you're ready, if you're not ready, we can move along.
I am ready. So my poem is called Drugging My Mother. And my mom had dementia for 5 years. I was her caregiver. And toward the end, she started developing rather serious behavior issues. And it was a crisis for me, very difficult to deal with. And this poem came from that experience. It's called Drugging My Mother, because hospice said we're going to have to stabilize her or we won't be able to get her into any assisted living facility at all. So here goes. Drugging my mother. My hand shook when I took the bag of drugs delivered that night. The moon was red. My mother's gut clenched. Bred an infection, dispersed invasive seeds of rage. In her brain, a chainsaw shredded reason to ribbons, incited limbs to insurrection. Hospice gave clear directions. Don't worry about tomorrow, today. But that day, electrons in her head split atomic bonds of mother, daughter. I could hide knives, scissors, but not my fear, which she could smell clearly. Lorazepam, Seroquel, haloperidol. I ferried the dark waters of my mother, tossed futile chemicals into her currents. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think many of us have probably been through that experience. And you said it so eloquently. Thank you. Sherry Levine. Sherry is one of our upcoming ALS authors.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Anne and Marianne, for having me. And I am in Margaret's book. I'm very honored to be. I have to leave early because I teach English to immigrants and refugees. I have two 30-second poems, if I may read them.
Absolutely.
First poem, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and was really agitated. And this poem just got accepted to the Prairie Schooner. So I'll share it with you. It's called Rummaging. Off the bus, my mother struts in front of me in a rush to the bank. She waves her finger at the teller, counting bills behind the window. Where's the chubby one, she says. I stand behind her and tug her arm. Stop it, she says. She pulls away, rummaging through her black leather fanny pack for her driver's license. I know she won't find it. They know me here, she yells. Behind the window, the manager nods to me. He says to her, "It's okay, Mrs. Levine." I turn around and face the security guard, the taser on his belt. He doesn't flinch. Has she done this before? I feel sweat dripping under my arms and into my bra. Everything is red and hot, like the inside of a mouth screaming. Thank you. I just published a book. It's an acrostic poetry of all of my mom's art. I asked 47 Oregon poets to write an acrostic poem, and I just published this, and I'm going to be reading it in Powell's bookstore.
Awesome.
I have to show you the picture because it's acrostic. Everybody see that?
Wow. That is gorgeous.
Thank you. Stealing flowers from the neighbors. No dark sunglasses, no hood over my head, no scissors, shopping bag slung over my shoulder. I slide behind bushes, pricked by brambles, yank and snap, rip and tear. No worry or rush or hush from the birds. Squirrels too busy collecting nuts don't stop on the lawn to judge. Dandelion seeds fill the air like dust. A silent sneeze, a cough caught in my throat. I crawl under towering weeds and hedges, wedge myself between rocks and prickly thorns. I do not feel the scraping of my knees or the bee sting, burn of the sun on my cheeks, heat on my hatless head. Stealing flowers from the neighbors, I could only think of you and your hospice bed, your weary head waiting for me to hear. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Marianne, if you'd like, I will go ahead and put a list of like the next 3 readers so they can be preparing.
That'd be great. I like that.
So maybe Dorothy Horn next.
So my name is Dorothy Horn, and my husband had early onset Alzheimer's, was diagnosed in 2011 and died in 2018. And so I wrote a series of essays for our paper, and along with that, a number of poems. So I'm going to read 2 very short ones. The first one's called Sometimes I Can't See God. Not in the big things anyway. I feel overwhelmed. But then I hear a word or a song, and I remember to wait on him. For he will come once again. I will see his face once again. In the meantime, I will praise him while I'm waiting. I will look for him in the small things. I can always see him there, a leaf illuminated by sunlight, a grandbaby sleeping, or a flower surfacing through the weeds. The small things, conduits of grace, when framed by our focus, reveal our Father's glory, and then he comes once again. Okay, the second short poem is entitled "I Should Have Brought a Stone." I should have brought a stone, and it was what inspired me was Ernest Hemingway's. There's a paragraph here that I wrote from The Old Man and the Sea. His says, "I should have brought a stone," and I'm about to read mine. "You should have brought many things," he thought, "but you did not bring them, oh man. Now is no time to think of what you do not have. Think of what you can do with what there is." So it inspired me to write this. Sometimes I think I should have brought a stone. Maybe it could have helped me navigate my way through the chaos that ever threatens to close in. Maybe I could have stayed brave and upbeat and encouraging and helpful. All those things that are so hard to do when you are empty. Maybe if I had brought a stone, I would still be able to hear the music. God, where is the music? Then God said, think of what you can do with what there is. You don't have a stone, you have a rock, and that's capitalized because of Jesus. And the verse I wrote at the end is, because you are my help, I sing in the shadow of your wings. The end.
Thank you so much. It's lovely. Thank you. Okay, so next we have Annette Wick.
Hi there, I'm Annette Januzzi Wick, and I'm a writer and author, and I published a book called I'll Have Some of Yours that is not amongst all the things behind me right now, but it's a book of essays around caregiving, and I say about caregiving and cookies, but I'm going to read poetry today, and I always found poetry to be somewhat of an easy way to capture all of my sentiments in those moments in between. I'm sure some of you will recognize this stage of dementia that my mother was in at this point. Never forget ice cream. I scream, she screams at me for asking her to move, to walk. It's late, 7 p.m. She has sundown before the sun has dipped. But I recall long, sweaty nights of drives to Dairy Aisle when we dipped our tongues in banana custard cream, then quenched our imaginations with the colored fountains near the waves. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue. Colors sliding into one another as her moments and moods do now, with no real distinction between a spot of ice cream and lathered soap. Finally, we stop moving. She stops, tearing into me for being a son of a bitch, though I want to correct her and say girl, not son. I hold my tongue, wait for the ice cream to cool her temper and my ire at why I am here at all. Because this life in front of me that calls me honey, with a taste sweeter than peach, is all I can feel. I will tell my husband later, if we each take care of one, wouldn't that be enough? That would stop the pain, despite how many times she's wanted to strangle me with her killer looks because she doesn't understand. She grabs the creamed ice from the place between us where it sat as peace offering, an offering of peach. With the spoon, she knows to scoop milk in her mouth. She is a mother feeding herself. Wasn't it worth that screaming for her one cool plunge to a place inside no one, not even me, can touch? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Okay. Marjorie Maddox.
Yes, here I am.
Okay.
This poem was written after my mother had kind of a deep dive into dementia after a hospital visit, kind of foreshadowing what was to come a little bit later. And she was very much a lady, and her personality drastically changed, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. And it was also the first time that she didn't recognize who we were. And then that went away and eventually came back again. Manners. Always a lady, she compliments the hospital bed and its ups and downs, the gray mashed beans, the flavorless broth, and me, who knows so very much about myself. An excellent researcher to have discovered her writer daughter, who also, coincidentally, is named my name, which she's always loved. Don't I love it too? Such a small world, she murmurs, before asking me to please pass the no-salt salt. She shivers. I help her tug the thin cover up evenly to her chin. When my sister returns to the room with a newly warmed blanket and the nurse she has gone to fetch, then sits with me again at the bed rail, my polite mother asks, "Have you met my other daughter, the beautiful one?" "Yes," I nod. "She's lovely." When her mind and body again thrash violently and, for her own protection, the aides explain, they strap her into a straitjacket, my mother pleads with us to find her daughters who are always happy to help. "Thank you so much," she smiles, before glaring at us suddenly with someone else's impolite eyes. Always a lady, my mother does not know that she's not who she is at the moment, swearing at the nurses she thinks are strangling her, at the intern who surely has stolen her car, the one we will take away for her own protection. After the MRI and CAT scan, after the final diagnosis, common infection that hijacked her brain temporarily, which she will not remember when she returns to her polite small talk, to the well-mannered children she recognizes and calls by name, the names she's always loved. Don't we love them too? Thank you.
Thank you. It's lovely. Paul Sohar.
Yes, I was also in this storm in the inland sea, but I'm going to turn to a different subject. Unfortunately, in my family, this case, which happened about 65 years ago, and but there's a more recent case. This involved my grandmother, my German grandmother from Transylvania. But then my younger brother came down with Alzheimer's, and it had a slow start, and then it lasted 7 years. And this poem is from, maybe the beginning stages. When he could still speak. "Merry Christmas," I greet my younger brother in the door. The gnarls in the time-tinted face wiggle into a smile. "Happy birthday." We shake on it like two dead branches hung up on each other. "Merry Christmas," I blow a breeze, maybe a pink cloud of sunset, and take another sip of apricot brandy. Who cares about dates and seasons? Only words, noise we make. We need a strong wind to make us fall on the ground, a wind stronger than time. "Happy birthday." The shadow on his cheeks falls on an anxious grin. An old oil painting with a color all gummed up, earthstone, inhabited by a spider dragging its dusty web. The snow is melting from my boots. The puddle is a deaf mirror. "My birthday is in July." I say, but he nods as if to obey a gust of wind. I'm stopping by to say Merry Christmas, not only to check on him, but all my words freeze midair before landing on his helmeted eyelids. Happy birthday. His refrain to my routine holiday noise sounds like his tongue is under the control of an alien calendar. Happy whatever the new year may bring. I try to compromise. A deal between two dying trees in a darkening forest. Happy whatever's ahead. His wife didn't give him a brandy glass. He doesn't know. He stands up. I stand up. Our arthritic hands shake in the kindling, like kindling wood thrown into a fireplace. Who's got matches? Crumple up some old newspapers. To us, even tomorrow's paper is old, ripe enough to burn. But our words turn into ashes in a cold and flameless fire.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. Pauletta Hansel?
I am honored to be reading with all of you and wish that there had been this reading when my mother was alive. It would have been very helpful to hear all these poems. I'm reading from my book called Palindrome, which is about her dementia journey and my journey with her. She died in 2018. And the poem that I'm going to read is a couple of parts of a sonnet, a crown of sonnets that I wrote, which is when I knew that I could actually write this book. The poem is called The Body Above It. 1. We cannot see what she sees. At night, dark insects slip inside the shoes our mother will shake out come morning. Her bedside clock runs backwards. We cannot smell the burning lingering around the box of ash and bone that was our father. To us, bread only tastes of bread. We lay fleshy cheeks against the rumpled angles of her face, whisper good night, then come to visit her again, taut skin and buds of breasts just barely rippling our tie-dyed shirts. We are more real to her in dreams than hovering near her in our clumsy bodies, refused entrance to her world, slowly crumbling behind her mind's locked door. 2. Just inside her new nursing home's locked door, my mother lists awkward in her wheelchair, adrift, one sock and both cloth shoes scattered helplessly behind. I bend to gather them up and say into the ear that holds her last remaining hearing aid, "You are my diddle-diddle dumpling," forever hoping she will remember the rest of the rhyme. It too is gone, no later alligator, no afterwhile, sunk to a bottomless bottom, nestled beside, some days, my name. Now my mother rubs her heel and whispers, maybe to me, "It is dying." Your foot? I ask her. No, the body above it. Thank you.
Thank you. Walter Bargan.
Yes, my name is Walter Bargan, and I'm going to read a poem from My Other Mother's Red Mercedes, which is about my mother and myself traveling through her illness of dementia. This is called Tony's Army. She was German, came here after World War II, and things get mixed up, histories get confused, and we all become time travelers trying to figure out just how much of this we are a part of. It begins in a nursing home. Her bed is elevated to look down at the photographs and a small brown cookbook dated 1940 with her maiden name inscribed on the title page. She wants to know where I found it, and I can't tell her that I packed up the contents of her house, what was once so familiar, leaded glass on end tables and windowsills, a few Hummel figures from the top shelf of the cabinet, too many beer steins, a few odd paintings of otter origin, preparing the rest for sale. I want to know, but forget to ask where she was when she used these recipes. There is so little room, even as the house is emptied. I hold up an 8x10 group wedding portrait of part of my family in Germany. The extended family standing on 4 tiers of risers, taken maybe 40 years ago. We are time travelers, time narrowing our destinations, never quite quick enough to stay ahead, no matter how quirky we are with our evasions. I ask her to name each person and to start in the upper left-hand corner. The first man's name is Tony, short for Anthony. He is a cousin I've sat beside, both of us holding beer steins, exchanging words that neither of us understood, laughing as our hands shaped the air into meaning. Separated in the photo by 2 women, Andrea and Gabi. The next man is Tony, too. When she has finished naming all 4 tiers, there's an entire family of men with the same first name. I open the photo album and place it on her lap. Each page is crowded with 2x2-inch black and white snapshots from beyond half a century ago. Not a half-life ago, but a whole life. On each page, the past is running to catch up with the future. Hand-colored wedding photographs, the bouquets hand-painted pink and yellow, smiles beyond smiles, the relief real, the war ended amid smoke smeared by wind, rising from a wrecked plane, a fleet of half-disassembled bombers, the white sails of boats sheeting the village lake, couples holding babies, holding me, father and buddies holding stringers of trout, snow and fog shrouding mountains and valleys, hikers filling the day with wanderings. I turn the page to a larger portrait of a young man, uniformed, wearing his army field cap, cocked to one side, his lips and eyes set, confident, certain that life is ahead. And my mother points to him and says, "Tony." Then I know. Her oldest brother in a family of 11 siblings, the one who disappeared near the end of the war. That's what everyone does, disappears, eventually, whole families, and a few, for a while, never forget, until they too are found smiling from the pages of an album, their names forgotten. Thank you.
Marion Cohen?
Okay, hear me?
There you are, yes.
I'm reading from my book, one of my caregiver books. It's called Chronic Progressive. I'm also in Margaret Stowaway's anthology, but I'm going to read this instead. It wasn't Alzheimer's, it was MS, but there was some dementia involved, which affected us financially to some extent. But the poem is, and I have to say, I was not that willing a caregiver. I was a good caregiver, but not that willing. A lot of my writing's about that. Also, this poem, which is called Signs of Dementia, it also reflects my math background to some extent. Here's the poem, Signs of Dementia. I should be thinking of lace, of doilies, the advantages of skeletons, branches without leaves, the usefulness of the forgetful functor, the qualities of shadows, fatigue, and sleep. I should be caressing this asymmetric snowflake, this 2-leaf clover, this sieve of Aristophanes, should be quietly touching this delicate fractal, respectively studying what's left.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joy Johnston.
Hi, grateful to be here. So I've written a collection of personal essays about dementia caregiving called The Reluctant Caregiver, but I also do write poetry. It remains unpublished, but this poem in particular is about time near the end of my father's life, November 2011. He was placed in a medically induced coma. And so I spent a week with him by his bedside in Presbyterian Hospital in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And there wasn't much I could do other than hold his hand because he was in the coma. And so all I could do was hold his hand and look out the window. And out the window was the Crossroads Motel sign. And if you're a fan of the show Breaking Bad, it was very popular at the time. And the Crossroads Motel played a big part in the show. So there was people pulling over, taking selfies with the Crossroads Motel sign. So that was the scene that inspired this poem. And of course, I had to recognize that my father was also at a crossroads himself. At the crossroads, I stared hard out the hospital window. That week you flatly refused to die, mocked by the Crossroads Motel sign and waves of toffee-tinted mountains soaring amidst a blistering blue sky. Trapped within a broken mind, choking on splintered synapses, reduced to a series of specimens, numbers, waves, a litany of beeps and alarms, machines performing mechanical wonders only sometimes magical, like the haunting whoosh of the ventilator performing admirably as understudy for your lungs. Another day passed without you knowing. I left you just as dusk swooped down like a starving vulture, the cherry red bulbs of the Crossroads Motel sign luridly flashing an invitation. Vacancy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Renee Terry-Mucci.
My name is Renee Terry-Mucci, and my mom had dementia for 10 years. And I was her caregiver. And during that time, I kept a journal. Writing was very therapeutic to keep a journal. Subsequently, I published it. It was her wish to publish it and have it reach as many people as she could to teach them the dance between the patient and the other survivor, which is the caregiver. I have three that are very short, and they're sequential. The first one is in the book, and I missed her speaking to me so desperately that I wrote this poem as if she had written it to me. It's called Life. Life, be kind to me. My memories are fading. Yesterday's flow into today, leaving tomorrow a mystery. Thoughts scatter from the corners of my mind and vanish as quickly as they appear. I sometimes fail to know you, but I will always love who you are to me and the way you make me feel. I then wrote this particular one after her passing, and it was a remembrance of our many conversations. So it's called Our Conversation. Good morning. Who are you? And what am I supposed to do? Today I have so many plans. I need to know where I'm to stand. I still have lots of things to say. Will you please just go away and leave me here with my delight? But wait, here comes the dreaded fright. I love you so. Are you my mom? I'm glad you're here. Why did you come? No matter what you hear or see, please know that I am still just me. And this one is called Prayer from Heaven. Cry not for me, and be not sad, as I have run the race. My days embraced each stage of life and filled my soul with grace. I carry with me all your love, and every memory too. Your words and prayers surround me still. My heart is filled with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Susan Faris.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. This is heartwarming. I'm proud to be an ALS author with my book, Poetic Expressions in Nursing, Sharing the Caring. I'm a nurse. And I want to thank Marianne, my fellow nurse, for inviting me in. I'm going to read Anne's Zest Ends. I was inspired about this. This is in regards to my maternal grandmother, Anne, who passed away at age 60 in 1971. And in 1991, as a nurse reflecting on everything, I finally healed with her loss. She died institutionalized before there were any daycare centers or any support like this or community. I was inspired by seeing the movie Awakenings with Robert De Niro and Robin Williams. Anne's Zest Ends. Prelude. Her zest for life, boundless energy, a smile a minute so full of glee, remembrance of my grandmother Anne, so significant to me. She ran the show. She was in the know about this or that, nonetheless, always on the go. So sharp, so much fun, and so on the ball. How I long to remember and long to recall. Endless walks, sun or snow when I was small. She'd pick me up when my spirit would fall. My first real buddy, my first true friend. Her ears and shoulders she'd always lend. If I was sad, my pain I'd spend. But always through her, my heart would mend. Intermission. But when I was about 7 in 1963, something in her changed so drastically. She would no longer laugh. She no longer knew me. She would wander about so aimlessly. She would light the gas stove and let the fire run free. Her eyes then would gaze in a wild combat stare. She grew mute and confused. She would pick at her hair. Who was this new stranger taking over her mind? Where did her spirit go? What did it find? From doctor to doctor, this mystery grew. It was 1965 and still nobody knew. To a state institution eventually. Her spirit then faded each day religiously. She grew steadily worse. It took 6 more long years. I would visit her with my mother. We would shed many tears. Day passes were draining. The public would stare. We'd assist her in the bathroom, comb the knots from her hair. I wonder how she felt, personality withered. Did she realize her melt? Were her synapses in a blizzard? Finale. On the 13th of April, 1971, when the hospital called us, 'twas the weight of a ton. She was terminally losing the battle and had wasted away, lost all faculties, not her choosing. She died soon after that day. But I reached for her hand at the bedside to say goodbye, friend, on that fateful day. And she mumbled and stared and connected. She mumbled as if to say, so long for now, Susan. I'm afraid it's time to take my rest, 'cause Alzheimer's drained my life away. But at least you've inherited my zest. Reflections. 20 years later, I weep for the past. Fond memories of Anne. She left the good life so fast. Her suffering, although it was an unfair curse, was the stimulus for me to become a nurse. As I seriously reflect on this draining disease that robs the brain of freedom cells and independence ease, I am angry. No definite cause or cure has been found. All the research won't touch the pain that abounds. If I had just one more wish that would be granted to me, I'd want to spend a day with Anne, just her and me. Her cheerful style, giving nature so gold, her best feature zest, her stature so bold. But who's kidding who? She was taken away in her prime. A true servant of God, strong will, lost mind. Signed, one who can still remember. Thank you. She's back. She's back every time.
Thank you. So that's very moving.
It never goes away.
No. they live on with your words, with all of your words, and it's a tribute. Thomas Brenner?
Yeah, my wife Karen and I have done a lot of work with people in caregiving settings about the dementia journey and trying to get people interested in a creative approach to their grief and to the situation that seems unbearable, to be able to express your feelings in a way that allows you to cope. Mm-hmm. And Karen wrote a Caregiver's Valentine, and that's the poem we'd like to read at this time.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to Alzheimer's authors. It's such a wonderful group, so supportive of caregivers and people with dementia. And here's the poem, A Caregiver's Valentine. We were impossibly young and so beautiful when we met and fell in love. You were the cool guy from the big city. I was the shy, small-town girl. I bring you photographs of those days long ago. You look at me and smile and ask me who those people are. I take your hand. It is warm and strong in mine. You don't remember, but you know that we belong together. I tell you stories of those two young people. You listen intently and study their faces. And then you look into my face with wonder in your eyes. I have come to understand that it doesn't matter that you no longer remember who we were then. It only matters that we can sit and hold hands while I tell you stories of those two young lovers, you and me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Karen and Tom. Felicia Mitchell?
Hi, I'm Felicia Mitchell, and I was my mother's primary caregiver later in her life, but with the help of my brothers, much of her journey. And I'm going to read a poem from my book, A Mother Speaks, A Daughter Listens, in which I write a lot about my experiences and my feelings, but as with many of us have experienced, we miss our mother's voices. And so a good bit of this book includes my mother's voice through letters and through words that I've integrated in my poems. And in one section, after she died, I decided to visit her months of hospice and imagine what might have been going on inside her head. And so the poem I'm going to read is called Bald Felicia. That's me. So one thing I guess I should say, everything is intersectional. You don't just have Alzheimer's. My mother had breast cancer twice. The second time diagnosed the same week mine was. So as she was winding down, I was hoping not to wind down. And we always speculated on how much she could figure out was going on. And one of my brothers wanted her to know, pulled off my scarf one day. Anyway, Bald Felicia. My daughter is bald underneath her scarf. I can feel her bald head when I pat her head. I can see it or not see it when she turns her back to walk out that door without a ponytail flopping. She is trying to protect me as I lie here in this bed, but I remember chemo. I know exactly what it means. The two of us are the same, two pieces of the same puzzle, even if I chose to wear a wig. When she leans down and hugs me, her breast falling into the margins where I once had another. My one full breast fills in the gap where her other breast is gone. This is how we speak of cancer, with our bodies instead of words. Nothing comes between us. It is as if we make each other whole again, as whole as a full head of hair or a healthy body. Letting go of these last hugs is teaching me how strong she is, and teaching my daughter how to let go of me when I go. That's so.
Thank you.
I should say that's Mama Audrey McClary Mitchell through me.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Judith Lechner.
Nobody's ever pronounced it right since kindergarten, but it's Lechner.
Lechner, okay. I understand completely.
This poem is about my husband, who currently has Alzheimer's, and it's been a 4-year trip and not over. And here he is playing his bass. He's a jazz musician, and he still plays.
Awesome.
Not publicly, but he still plays, and he's still the same sweet self, except for, things that happen from time to time. And this poem is dedicated to him. He was a wonderful talker, and at this point now he has problems talking. Every day on the blackboard of your mind, words are erased. You squint at the faint broken letters. Sometimes there's magic. Shadows reassemble into a word you once knew. You turn it round and round, repeat it, marveling at its contours, delighting in reconstructing meaning, sounding almost like the great talker you once were. Other times I slip lost words into your empty pockets. Some slip through the seams. A few settle in, at least for a time. Words are garments to clothe feelings, present the self to others. When words disappear, do you feel naked, shivering in the darkness, grasping at threads? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Judith Lechner. Did I say it?
Okay.
I laugh because my whole life I've had names nobody could ever say or spell. Sue Fagal. Now here's another one I probably can't say. Sue Fagal.
Fagaldi.
Okay.
Hi. My husband Fred had Alzheimer's. Started at age 65 and he died at 73. And I published a chapbook, Gravel Road Ahead, about our journey with his Alzheimer's. And I've got a memoir coming out next year about that as well. This is the last poem in the book, called Sister Alzheimer's Wife. So addressed to lots of us. Sister Alzheimer's wife, I know you, even though we have never met. I know the fear every time he forgets something he used to know, like how to make a sandwich or where the salad dressing goes. I know you lie awake at night watching him hallucinate, fighting monsters in the bed, or not remembering who you are. He gets lost and pees on the rug. You're so tired you want to run away. I know you weep where he cannot hear, in the car, the garage, on the toilet seat, then hurry to answer his calls for help. Turn on the TV or button his shirt. Well, the house needs work, lawns aren't mowed, and the oil light's been on in the car for weeks. I know you watch the money go as you pay bills you never paid before. Doctors, car repair, and soon the nursing home. Married but not a wife anymore. You miss kissing and sex and wine-soaked talks, sharing memories only you remember now. Oh, sister, I know you feel alone, that no one understands the way it is, that he's disappearing bit by bit, even if he looks the same as he always did. And it's not fair, not effing fair. But you promised, so you stay. Thank you.
Thank you. This ends episode 1 of Poetry for the Dementia Journey. Please continue to episode 2, where you will discover more stories and poems to inspire and guide you on your own dementia journey. Remember, you are not alone. Thank you for listening to Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, an All's Authors podcast. For more details on this episode, please see the show notes. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to it on whichever platform you use to listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information on All's Authors, please visit allsauthors.com. While you're there, be sure to browse our online bookstore, where you will find hundreds of carefully vetted books on Alzheimer's and dementia. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please email your thoughts on the podcast to allsauthors@gmail.com. We are a 501c3 charitable organization, totally reliant on donations to do what we do. If our authors' stories move you, please consider contributing to our cause. Remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony.